I already saw you dropped your breakdown already of Luke Getsy, right? I saw that was fire already. But for everybody that didn't see, I know they very excited to get your take on things. So, I mean, before we even get into the breakdown, right? Like when you heard the initial news on things, like where was your head at?
It was interesting because I didn't really know too much about Luke Getsy, that much. Just kind of what other people were saying
Right.
about him, and didn't really have a good reputation, right? Definitely with how he worked with Justin Fields, people didn't really like how he developed him, and especially there's a lot of Justin Fields fans out there from him come from Ohio State, very
Mm-hmm.
impact player, man. He's very popular recruit. He's been a popular player for a long time. A lot of people were surprised he fell to 11, but I think the way he's playing in the NFL, we kind of see why he fell that far. But that was kind of the thing with Luke Getsy. I mean, he just had a bad reputation because of how the Bears offense looked
Yeah.
and the narratives around it. So yeah, that was so it was disappointing from that outlook because yeah, I mean, I wasn't a big Cliff fan. I was disappointed by them taking Cliff.
Really? You
So
were?
yeah,
That's interesting. Okay.
yeah, I don't like Cliff at all. So
Okay.
um
Okay.
so Getsy, it was just I didn't know too much about it. I just knew a lot about Cliff Kingsbury, and I wasn't excited
If
for
you
trying to figure
okay,
out
because
everything.
that's interesting because a lot of people that's on my channel, me included, I will say, I was cool with Cliff, right? Like I was cool. I want, but like, what in your eyes? Why wouldn't you have wanted Cliff, and why do you think the Raiders kind of probably should have went in a different direction other than him?
Just because I mean his offense is very static and it's not very. It's like creative in an instance by the way it's run, but it's not creative in the way that it's schematically set up. I mean, the
Mm,
air raid is air raid. It's very simple offense. It's very easy for teams to figure out. I mean, there's when we did our breakdown of it and we showed kind of the things that was wrong with it. I mean, it's just a lot of short passing, a lot of dinking and dunking. It wasn't something the Raiders were really into. I know people think it's the air raid and think it's a deep passing offense, but it's really short passing. It's a lot of dink, 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 screen, dink, dink. Then
that's what
maybe a
you
deep
hear.
pass. Yeah, so I wasn't too excited about that, and it's just not that he wouldn't have moved Devontae around a lot. It would have been
Yeah.
very not something that we would have liked down the
Right.
road
And
if we set
another
up.
thing that I was saying as well is like, my question mark was like, okay, I never really saw Cliff Kingsbury really use a tight end. And me, I was saying whoever comes in as the offensive coordinator, they got to know how to use Michael Mayer in some capacity. So do you think, Luke Getsy would be the guy for that job to say, okay, may I could take Michael Mayer and use him as a weapon like he should be used?
Yeah, yeah. I will say Cliff Kingsbury did have Zach Ertz,
Okay.
but it wasn't. He didn't use him like a inline tight end type of thing. He was always in the slot, so it was he was just a receiving tight end. He was a bigger looking
Okay.
receiving tight end, basically.
Okay.
So, that's the air raid. The air raid doesn't have like a tight end. They have a big wide receiver tight end. You know what I
Right.
mean? So
Exactly. And yeah.
so yeah, but I say Getsy. I mean, the way he used Cole Komet definitely is
There
a
you go.
outlook for that. I mean, he used a lot of choice routes with him and found ways to get him open. He definitely was wasn't the main receiver, but definitely right behind DJ Moore. Uh, and he found ways to isolate him and get him some looks. And it feels it feels was able to give him the ball. He was able to give him the ball, but I think he'll find ways to get the ball to the tight end. It's gonna be interesting to see what kind of offense he deploys with the personnel. They just got to match it up and decide with how they want to play offense.
Right.
To be honest.
Because now the thing is like, okay, how is he going to implement, his offense here? Was he running a different offense, over there? So for the people who don't know about Luke Getsy like that, if you can give just a quick breakdown of what we can probably expect to see from him, coming in, maybe the basics.
Yeah, I think what we will see is a lot of not college styles. Could be a mixture of a little bit of West Coast offense under center with some college style offense.
Okay.
I think they're going to try to go get an athletic quarterback to run it. I think Getsy's never had a quarterback that's not athletic when he's running
Mm,
his offenses. He had Nick Fitzgerald at Mississippi State. Nick Fitzgerald at Mississippi State didn't throw the ball. He ran for 1,100 yards. So Joseph Fields ran for
okay.
1,100 yards.
Okay.
So that type of quarterback is going to be essential to what he likes to do. in my opinion. I think that they did a lot of zone read, over there, and there's a lot of the basis of the run game. So I don't know if he's gonna switch it up and go under center. It all depends on what they decide to do at quarterback. But
Mm.
usually it's an athletic guy that fits into the system, and like I said, doing zone reads, doing some quarterback stuff, and usually, historically, he's had an athletic guy, so it's never been like a
Okay.
master type of guy. A lot of it, like I said, it was just people just wanted to stick up for Justin Fields a little bit, but he definitely has a more offense that if you have an athletic quarterback, he can work it out.
And usually, I mean, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but usually, I don't really see a coach change his stripes like that. Like if he really likes a certain mold of guy, he usually tries to stick to that mold of guy.
Yeah.
Unless it's like a very different circumstance. He's like, oh, this dude is just so good that I have to go ahead and do something else. But knowing all that, okay, I what I was excited about, at least to the point, was like, okay, he's probably going to come in here and implement, some run game at least. Can we expect something from the run game, like a little different, or what can we expect from that aspect?
Well, yeah, I mean, especially if he decides what kind of quarterback he gets. I mean, I think the Bears were able to run the ball because, like I said, their whole basis was his own read. So you had to worry about Justin
Mm-hmm.
Fields, and I
Yep.
mean, he made teams play 11 on 11, that was kind of the dynamic of the run game. Now, I would say that in the zone read, he probably needed to get more creative, and I think he did a little bit at the end of the year with some more QB sweeps and stuff like that. But I think he that was kind of the issue with the zone read is a lot of people say he doesn't get the ball to Justin Fields is that their teams are playing for Justin Fields to get the ball on the zone read because the zone read is not an actual quarterback play. The quarterback can't keep it,
Right.
but that type of thing. So he needs to get more creative. But I think his under center run game is actually pretty good too. It's a lot of quarterback sweeps, a lot of zone runs. They did it all over the Raiders. I mean, they didn't have Justin Fields out there. They just did
Yep.
sweeps in outside zone, and put up 30 points on the Raiders defense. So really embarrassed him, kind of punched him in the mouth. So there is some good elements to his run game there. But I still think the basis of it, I mean, he needs an athletic quarterback to want to run when he wants to run.
Oh yeah, and we're definitely going to get into the quarterbacks just a little later. I mean that's a hot topic within this fan base right now. You can get into an argument in an instant, right? Talking about
Yeah.
these quarterbacks over here. But I do want to ask one more question about Getsy now, right? I of course, if you guys don't follow him on Twitter, follow him on Twitter or X, whatever, right? You'll see all the stuff he's talking about here, and he talks about that there. But I did see a clip that you posted, okay?
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And this man had 3 receivers running in the same goddamn area, and everything looked jumbled. So that
Yeah.
scares me. All right. So
Yeah.
how much of that is on the film? Like when you break down Luke Getsy's film, how much of the confusion and guys running in the same area, like, do you see that often on the field?
I mean, it happens. Not I wouldn't say often, but it
Okay.
happens enough. I'll say that. And I think it's more because when they try to do some of their deep passing concepts or their deep concepts, I think when you do those things in college, the hashes are bigger, so you could spread out
Mm,
things more, and you can't do a lot of the things that they tried to mix in to help Justin Fields a little bit. So I think once he tried to mix in, maybe not as much forcing those deep passes and forcing those deep routes and try to get more short passing in there. I think that's more the problem with Getsy is that forcing the deep passes and forcing some of those deep comebacks and stuff like that. But it is going to happen when you try to do spread offenses like that, and you don't have the hashes that you have in the NFL. You can't be as spread. So
mm-hmm.
you got to be. That's why it's more of a condensed game in the NFL. You see a lot more 12 personnel these days, and teams condensing because
Right.
it's not it's really not that type of game in the NFL.
I definitely pick up what you're putting down, man. Honestly, to me, that was like the main concern to me. It's like, okay, more times than not, you like, okay, receivers are running into each other. People look confused. But then, I see in the chat, like my guy Josh says as well, there are some times where, you look and Justin Fields is missing wide open reads sometimes. And it's like, okay, well, which one is it? So I guess we're going to find out in your humble opinion, right? If you had to be in the interviews and saying whatever, do you put it more on Justin Fields or would you put it more on Luke Getsy that the Bears offense looked the way it looked?
I mean, to be honest, I would put it. It's hard for me because I think that I don't want to be where like it's totally one guy's fault on it. But
Right, right.
I do believe that if Justin Fields made better reads, that he probably still have a job. So I'll say that. I'll say that if he made better reads, he probably still have a job. I do think he could have been more creative in giving him more of a short passing game.
Right.
But Justin Fields, he's not a short passer. I mean, there's really nothing you could do about that.
Yeah.
You have to be vertical with him, and that's what he was trying to do. But I know somebody said that they needed to run RPOs, but I don't think you could do a lot of those things with Justin Fields either. So
it's hard to judge, man.
Yeah. I think Justin Fields is just that type of quarterback that I mean, his windup takes too long. Sometimes he's always gonna be late with the ball. I don't know how good of an NFL passer he's ever really gonna be. So that's the thing right now, and that's maybe what a lot of tests. Why like Luke Getsy was getting all those interviews, because the NFL feels a little bit the same way, and
right.
That's why I thought it was I thought it was a little funny that people wanted Justin Fields with Kingsbury. It's not going to work at all. Oh. So yeah, it's all about them being vertical, but I think that's why Luke Getsy's here, because they want to throw down the ball on the field too. So.